children of today are faced with a lot of, what we didn't have growing up.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
have a lot of things thrown at them.
yeah,
Social media addiction, it could be alcohol, smoking, drugs,
yeah,
uh, a lot of peer pressure, lots of problems are thrown at them. But how do they handle it? So we
yeah,
have to build them up to face all these challenges. And that happens when the child is strong,
yeah,
when the child is able to cope, and
yeah,
the child is able to accept themselves and say, yes, I can face it, and also has a plan about what they want for the future. So
yeah,
they're able to say no to many things,
yeah.
or to have boundaries, that yes, I will be involved in social media, but not beyond a certain time. So they're
Correct.
able to say yes and to have clear boundaries.
Yes.
Hi, we are the Confident Communicator, and I am Seema Mehta, along with my partner Deepma Jadeja. Welcome to Imperfect Parenting. Together, let's get on a journey of discovering kindness, success, and happiness courageously, fearlessly, and by holding ourselves to a standard of grace, not perfection. It is our mission at the Confident Communicator to empower kids and adults discover their own uniqueness through our coaching, training, and soft skills program. We welcome you to a new chapter of Imperfect Parenting, a series dedicated to discovering our own uniqueness without judgment by chiseling away all superfluous materials within ourselves.
Hi, everyone. This is Deepma Jadeja again from the Confident Communicator, joined by my wonderful business partner and friend, Seema Mehta.
Hi.
And this is another episode of Imperfect Parenting. Welcome. Today, we're welcoming an amazing woman to our show. Her name is Hema Vinod, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. But I want to tell you a little bit about how I heard of her. So I had this book pop up on my Instagram feed and my LinkedIn feed called Parenteening. And I thought that was just a very intriguing name, especially since I'm just barely out of parenting teens. Seema still has one teen at home, and we train teens. So immediately I checked out Hema's LinkedIn profile, and it was so impressive that we both, Seema and I, decided we wanted to have her on the show. So without much ado, I want to welcome Hema Vinod, the author, the best-selling author of the book Parenteening, which she's going to talk about today, and some other things that come up during our conversation. So welcome, Hema. And if you would tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us and our viewers a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Deepma and Seema. It's really an honor to be here. And I can't express, how important this is for me, because my mission is to serve parents and teens. So, of course, this is in line with that. And it's an awesome opportunity. I love the term imperfect parenting because it's what we all are. We're all imperfect as parents. We start out not knowing, how the journey will take us, but we do our best. Most of us do our best. So even for me, it was like that, as a parent of two teens, I went through a lot of challenges. And of course, as an educator, I've worked with teens, for 3 decades. And when I came back to India, I wanted to see which area I could really work in. And the focus became teens, because I feel that's a category that needs so much help.
Yes.
And of course, the parents, as a parent, I knew how I felt, I felt I was lost. So that's where this idea of the book came. And using my experience and also my experience as a trained coach, I wanted to put it to good use. So that's how I started working on my book.
Wonderful. Hema, that's so amazing. One thing stuck out to me, which is so true, right? When we're pregnant, we're so excited, and there's so many books and videos and websites and everything
What
about
to expect when you're
pregnancy, what
expecting?
to expect when you're expecting. Then when you have the child, there's so much help, there's so much advice, there's so much information out there that you can consume, even up to, you hear about the terrible twos and the horrific threes for me also, and you keep hearing about the toddler ages as well, but somehow I think the world thinks that you will have figured it all out by the time the kids are teens, and unfortunately that isn't true, because they just become a completely different animal when they hit 13. And so I'm so glad that you acknowledge that it is a tough time for parents when they have teenagers in the house, and how to, how can we talk about that. So you talk in your book that I've been reading about the 7 principles that unlock positive teenage parenting, and you talk a lot about partnering with your teen, which is a little different from, instructing your younger child as to what they have to do and keeping them safe all the time. So can you talk a little bit about partnering with your child?
Sure. Thank you. This is the most important principle. So thank you for bringing that up. I felt that uh, as a parent of teens, we are on parallel journeys. The teenager is going on his journey or her journey, and we, the parent, is going on our parents are going on our journey. So that's where the disconnect comes as parents of teenagers. Somehow we have lost that connection.
Mm.
When the children are little, they adore us, and there's that connection, that close bonding. But
Yes.
somewhere along the way, we lose it, and it's very striking during the teen years. And
Right.
this is where I felt like our approach has to be different. We have to be on the same page with the children. And how can we do that?
Mm-hmm.
When I was writing my book, I said there are so many books on parenting, but I want my book to be a one resource that every parent can pick up and say, yes, now I have the tools to handle my child. It should be a one-stop resource. So that's where I came up with the idea of partnering, because that's where you are together with the child on that journey. You are equals because you're learning through that journey, and you are facing the challenges together. You're learning, you're growing.
So, Hema, my question for you was, when the kids are younger, the relationship is very instructional most of the time, because here we are taking care of a very fragile child who's learning to walk,
Yes, of
learning to
course.
talk, learning to eat, learning to understand the world around them. So it's very instructional. And what happens is that human beings are creatures of habit. We start getting into the idea of, okay, I have to give instructions, you have to listen, and that's how it works. And then comes the teenage stage, where suddenly they are starting to assert themselves, and they are starting to question everything that we do. They want to sort of come out as individuals, and as parents we forget it's no longer instructional. That's why I love the idea that you have put into your book about partnering. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Thank you. This is a great question. And but I just want to add that though it is highly instructional, we should not lose fact that we are building the skills of the child.
Yeah.
While it's instruction, we must also build the skills of decision making, ability to work with people, all that should also go on. So in the teenage years, of course, we want a teenager who can cooperate with us, who can partner with us. At the same time, we are working with the child as a partner. So it's very important to build that relationship, so that it's possible to work as a partner. You can't do it overnight. It has to come over the years.
Yeah, it's not a switch that you can just suddenly move.
No.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yes. That's why when people say that, oh, I'll buy your book when my parent is a teenager, I say no. You have to start building the relationship right from the early years. In fact, you should read the book when the child is much younger, because you can't suddenly become, the fantastic parent of a teenager. It has to be built
so you
over the
can
years.
transition into those years.
Yes,
easily.
it's a transition.
I love that, Hema. And we've had a lot of people on our show, over these last, I want to say over these last couple of months, who have come in and who have talked about the importance of building that connection and building that relationship with your children, being more than, instructional, being more than obeyed, constantly being obeyed. Because we were taught, we come from a generation where we were taught never to question our parents or our teachers. Little children should not question. You just shut up and learn. And it's changed a little bit now. The world outside has changed. And for that, we also as parents have to change. A lot of people have been talking to us about affirmations and how to have a lot of affirmations with your children, how to accept your own vulnerabilities, how to accept your own imperfections in order to be able to create that bond with your child. Because when they realize that you're willing to accept that you don't know it all, they feel closer to you. So what is the importance of communication, and especially the positive communication and positive affirmations that you have talked about a little bit in the book?
Thank you, Deepma. I believe that communication is the lifeblood. Just as, we have the blood flowing through our body, and that's how the body functions. If you don't have communication, there's no relationship. So that communication has to be deliberately built up, a good communication. And how can we do that? You need the skills of communicating. Right. Because you can communicate in different ways. As an authoritarian parent, you can just, be ordering your child around. You can just be very harsh. But that doesn't work in the long run. The child may out of fear do things. Correct. But in the long run, are you building that child? Are you building that relationship? So what do you have as the end result? We have to keep that in mind as parents. We want a well-adapted child with skills, an adult who's responsible, who's honest, who's resilient. We want resilient. So we want, we have an image of the kind of child we want, and we have to work towards that. Right. And communication is what helps us to get there. Right. So we have to be very conscious when we are communicating. How are we communicating? Are we using the tools? For instance, are we acknowledging? Are we validating the child? Are we listening intuitively to the child? What kind of questions are we asking? The kind of questions you ask can help the child open up and talk. If you use empowering questions, the child is more open to talking to you and giving more details. Right. But if you ask, questions that result in yes, no, you're kind of closing that communication. So we need to use the skills of communication. We have to be aware of those skills. And I gave this chapter a lot of importance because I feel communication is where we fail as parents, in our listening, in our validating, in the way we deal with our children. So once we have the skills of communicating, the relationship grows.
And I think it's also the social conditioning, right? It's the way, like Deepa talked about, how we were raised as kids. Yes. How we received the parenting, we learn from that. And I think this generation, especially right now, given the state of mental health of our children and what the pandemic has thrown at us, it's very important to understand that respect goes both ways. You want your parents to listen to you, you need to listen to them as well. So that respect goes both ways. And I think if we get off this high horse of I have to be instructional and I have to be authoritative and I have to give instructions all the time, I think that the relationship will be more fun, and we don't have to worry about the horrific teenage years. We don't have to be scared of it, because I love what you said, that you have to start that from the beginning. You start that respect, that communication right from the beginning, so that then there is synergy and there is that very smooth partnering with our children. So that's beautifully said. And then, so talk to us a little bit about this whole concept of unconditional love, because unconditional love sounds a little scary to me, given that we are also humans. We are also humans. You will yourself as a parent will go through a lot of turbulence in your own life. You will be, there'll be these perfect storms that you will be going through in your life. And amidst that, to when you don't agree with a lot of things that are going on, how do you then become this parent who showers unconditional love to the child?
It's a very tough idea. Because we are human. Yes, as you said, Seema, we are so human, and we fall and we make mistakes. But ultimately, it's the idea of seeing your child in a very loving way, without having strings attached. That I love this child with all his or her flaws.
Yes.
I love them in the space they are in right now. They're evolving, but I love them with all their, all their frailties and all their mistakes and all their, weaknesses. And that's how you build them up, because you love them despite all the, the weaknesses and the gaps they may have.
How do you do
and you
that?
see this child as a perfect person, and you give them all the love you can.
So I was just saying, how do you do that though, when you're in the middle of this mad anger, sometimes frustration of them, either you know that they're going down this particular path that you know for sure is going to mess them up, or the fact that sometimes you tend to make it very punishment based, your parenting, where you say, if you
Yes.
don't get this marks, then this is the consequences. And so I understand consequence based, but then how do you take consequence based and turn it into what you're talking about, validating and doing the unconditional love? Because I have been very, very guilty very often of saying, okay, then I'm not going to do this for you if you don't do this, and it's very hard to then in that moment remember to be unconditional.
Yes. I think we've all done it, because, we all have our own life that is going through so many things being thrown at us. So it's always possible to do things that are not the right thing as a parent.
Correct.
So of course, when a situation comes, you just ask yourself, if I do this, what will the repercussion be long term? Now, if I act out of anger, there's a repercussion. The child is going to withdraw, probably not tell me half the things he or she is going through.
Correct.
But if I act with responsibility, if I act with integrity, if I act with honesty, and I say, this is the solution, this is the problem we are facing, what are the options we have? You ask the child. I think that can be much better than, saying, I want it this way, I want it my way. And you and the child are growing through that situation. You're finding out the best option for that situation.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that idea of asking the child, okay, what are the options that we can, let's solve this problem together.
You're essentially empowering the child, right? Because if you don't empower them, I think things will become more unconditional as you go along. Anyway, there are children. So, all parents love their kids, no matter what. Even if everything goes wrong, we will still support them. We always do that in the end. But giving them that idea of, they are in charge, and empowering them and helping them come up with a solution and figuring out and seeing what the consequences are. Because, there is the prefrontal cortex that doesn't form till 24, 25. So clearly we will have to be the one to recognize that and say, you know what, they're not aware of consequences. So let's enlighten them with that. So we need to be aware and conscious as parents and make sure that that doesn't happen. And then, of course, we talked about consequences, and that's where the idea of resilience comes in. We are all talking about resilience is so important. We cannot make our children so fragile that they cannot deal with the challenges life is going to throw them, and there are going to be lots of challenges.
Of course.
So how do you build that resilience and that confidence in a child?
First of all, we need to understand that life will always throw challenges, at us. And as we grow older, we may protect the child. But as the child is growing into adulthood, there are going to be a lot of challenges. So we have to consciously build them to be strong and resilient.
Correct.
And that comes through building the child up, through building the child's, confidence, acceptance, self-acceptance. Building the child's understanding of life, It's not about school, because what you learn outside school is more important,
That's
so
true.
The kind of experiences you give the child. Very often we as parents, we want to protect our children. We want to give them the best. We want to, give them a world that is really good and is like a bubble, but that doesn't work. So the child has to see the challenges of life and also grow that, yes, I can face the challenges. So it may be like a small situation, but the child has to learn there are consequences. Whatever they do, there is a consequence. Like if a child misses a class, the child has to make up that class. Somehow he has to struggle, he has to go to the teacher, ask his friend. So in everything, there is a consequence. So once a child learns that, he learns in the wider world when he's tempted, to take on, let's say, habits that are not positive. He will say, yes, there's a consequence to this. I should not do it. So we have to build the child to make those mature decisions. So that happens
that is so true. That reminds me, that is so true. What you're saying is that if you start earlier on, then because see, like Seema said, the prefrontal cortex is not fused. So impulse control is not there until the age of 24. So obviously they're going to impulsively want to try some things. So right from the age of 12 or 13, if we have constantly the last 10 years built them up to start questioning what are the consequences of my actions without mom or dad having to ask me about it, without mom or dad having to yell about it, what could the long-term, I loved what you said, the long-term consequences of what I am doing, and let empower them to learn to ask themselves that question, right? And that would be helping in their development or as resilient adults.
Especially today, children of today are faced with a lot of, what we didn't have growing up. So they have a lot of things thrown at them. Social media addiction, it could be alcohol, smoking, drugs, a lot of peer pressure, lots of problems are thrown at them. But how do they handle it? So we have to build them up to face all these challenges. And that happens when the child is strong. When the child is able to cope. And the child is able to accept themselves and say, yes, I can face it. And also has a plan about what they want for the future. So, they're able to say no to many things. Or to have boundaries, that yes, I will be involved in social media, but not beyond a certain time. So they're able to say yes and to have clear boundaries.
Yes, absolutely.
That is fabulous, because the acceptance, the self-acceptance and the self-knowledge that I can solve this problem. I remember my son's kindergarten teacher telling me once that if they can get out of small scrapes, they'll get out of big scrapes.
Exactly.
But we never let them get out of the small scrapes, so they never know that they can. Right?
Yes.
And so that has stuck with me over the years. Let them get into the small scrapes and get out of them, so that they build that, what you were talking about as resilience and acceptance to get out of the bigger ones. So before we conclude, I want to ask you this question, Hema. I first also want to say that Hema is writing now her second book, whose title is equally intriguing. The title of the book is Girl, Empower Yourself. And I love that title because it is so empowering in and of itself. But going back to parenting, tell me, Hema, what is the one tip that you would like our parents to take away with them today? The one most important tip you feel that most parents should hear before they buy and read the book?
I think it's a positive teenage parenting, How do you become a positive teenage parent? It has a lot of ingredients. Like if you're preparing a dish, it's not one ingredient. You're putting many things in the right proportion to get that dish right. So it's the same way with parenting. It's not one particular thing, but it's a mixture of everything coming together to make that perfect dish. And though we say, parenting is imperfect, we try our best. We try our best to put together the best kind of parenting practices so that the child gets the best. We can give the best as a parent. It cannot be perfect, but we give the best opportunity.
And the best that works for our family.
Us, yes, for our family and our particular situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are looking forward to your second book, Hema. It sounds very, very interesting. Much. And, I think it's so important to empower, especially our girls. I think the world is changing. I love what you said about we came from a different world. Our children are facing a completely different world. And I think that we have to be very mindful and conscious of the fact that they cannot be doing exactly what we did. It's a different opportunity, it's a different challenge, it's a different world they are in. And I think that resilience building is probably the most important skill that any child can have. And I always give this example to my children. I always talk about two things. One is when you talk about resilience, think about it as, you're doing weightlifting. When you go to the gym and you want this 8-pack or a 6-pack or whatever, you got to resist against the weight, right? So unless and until you don't do that, you keep there's constant pain, there's constant hardship, there's constant push. You have to show up at the gym every single day, and that's how you build that resilience, and that's how you get the 8-pack. Life is like that. You have to keep looking at everything as you're pushing that weight constantly. So that's going to happen. Number one. Number two, I like to talk about the end goal, which is something you touched upon beautifully, which is, most kids are thinking, is this what I'm going to be doing? Am I just going to be writing exams? Is my life going to be defined by my grades or which college I got into? Is that what it is all about? Is everybody going to judge me because I couldn't speak in front of people, or I was shy, or I didn't know the answer? And my answer to that is no. The goal is you need to know your purpose. What are you aiming for? What kind of life do you want for yourself? Like you said, think about it, that what do you expect out of your children? If you expect your children to be kind and resilient and happy, if that is the goal, then everything else that you're doing in the middle is the how. So think about your why and just deal with the how, because the how is going to take you to the why, but know your purpose.
Exactly.
So I think these are great tips that you have given us, Hema, and I hope that our parents, I'm sure, will benefit a lot from this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And yes, I urge everyone to read the book.
Yes, we will be sharing the link.
Blurred. Wait.
Yeah,
I'm going to share it
we will share the link to where this book is available, and give us your feedback after you read it. We both are very excited to read this, and we are waiting for your second book. So good luck with that, Hema. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
There's one more thing that I wanted to bring up right now. You had a free link to some week to Kindle version. Do you want to talk a little about that?
Yes. The book is available on Amazon on Kindle, and you can download it for free. I'll just inform the dates when it will be free. It'll be like 2 or 3 days. So people can download it and read the book. And I'll be very grateful if you can write a review.
Absolutely.
We'll go ahead and let us know the dates. We'll go ahead and put it in the comments.
Definitely, I'll let you know the dates.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Great having you. Thank you, Hema.
Thank you. Bye.